This show was recorded on the 24th of March 2020, just after COVID-19 was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. In this episode, I speak to Serena Sabala on being healthy inside and out and how that transforms your life and your business. Your own perception of yourself can sabotage your success. Serena advises what exactly is needed for profound transformation. This is an important conversation for these times. Listen up to the rest of the conversation. Before we begin our conversation, here is a quick shout out to the pathologically curious. Check out the Maverick Paradox magazine. It's a digital magazine written by Mavericks for business owners and professionals. You can find the magazine at themaverickparadox.com. The magazine's aim is to provoke maverick leadership everywhere. Welcome to the Maverick Paradox podcast, where we explore what it is to be a maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you would like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. And today, our guest is Serena Sabala. Hi, Serena.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming online. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Before we start,
absolutely.
though, do you want to tell me about you?
Yes, for sure. So I am the co-founder of Whole Shift Wellness. It's a coaching company specialized in bespoke programs for time-pressed leaders. Myself and my husband, the co-founder, we have over 20 years of combined experience in various fields of the wellness industry, and this has allowed us to develop a proven methodology to shift you to your most fit, healthy, and confident self within 1 year.
Wow, 1 year.
Yes.
That's amazing. So how does that happen? Is it kind of like looking at the diet, looking at the body? How does that work?
Yes, it's all of that and then some. We have been lucky enough to be able to do this, like I said, for over 20 years combined, and we've worked across 5 different countries with over 500 professionals. So we've been able to identify what we believe are the pillars of holistic health and well-being, and really develop a 360 approach and the ultimate, what we believe are the ultimate shifts, as we call them, or packages, which include all the modalities needed to get you to transform you into your best self once and for all.
I like the idea of transforming.
Yes, it's all about transformation, because you see, change is easy, but it's also easily reversible. Whereas when you transform, whatever results you acquire through transformation are yours for life.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we know that mavericks are busy people and they have a real high tolerance for pain. So They will keep going and keep going and keep going, and probably only stop until when they're absolutely exhausted and cannot move another millimetre. Why do you think mavericks ought to prioritise their health then? Because the average maverick will be like, I know when to stop.
Yeah, I mean, you probably will have seen this from my bio. This really ties in with the fundamental reason why I do what I do, which goes as far back as my childhood. Because when I was very young, my dad, who was a very brilliant entrepreneur and business owner, and he created a business that didn't even exist before his time and built it from scratch into a very successful company. And he was precisely that type of person who, was very, very confident and strong and outgoing, and made it look like he always had it all under control, and kept prioritizing everything but his own health and well-being, until eventually he got really ill and ended up losing everything he'd worked so hard for in his entire life, with huge repercussions for me as a child as well, and our entire extended family. And that's when I became really so very present with how fundamental our health and well-being is to everything and anything that we do in life, and how disruptive it is to our life as a whole when we lose it. And sadly, that's quite a common occurrence, that people start valuing their health and well-being only once it's at risk, or when they're going through a health scare or a health problem, or when their back is against the wall, which makes it harder to recover. We always say this to a shifter: it's much easier to maintain optimal well-being and health than it is to reacquire it if you lose it. And so my mission is to really educate people in understanding that it is the most fundamental pillar of our life, and nothing is more important than that. And if you put that at risk, you're essentially putting your whole life at risk.
Yeah. And do you see a lot of people doing that?
Yeah, sadly, the majority of people do that, and that is why we struggle with so many chronic diseases, even though we are as evolved as we've ever been as a population. We are also progressively getting more and more unhealthy, which is one of the greatest contradictions of these modern times.
How does somebody know that they need to do something? Because I don't know. Because I say, if you're used to always running, you don't notice when you're becoming run down. So, what are the things that show? Because or it could be that you could be eating what you think is really well, but that is really damaging your body, but you don't realize it. So, is there any indicators out there?
Yeah, for sure. There are a number of indicators. First and foremost, I will start by saying that in our experience, most people who are not doing their best in taking care of their health and well-being are actually fully aware of it. I don't meet a lot of people who are in complete denial and don't have the faintest idea of the fact that they could be doing better. That's not the most common scenario at all. Actually, the most common scenario is that they know, whether it's a conscious knowing or an unconscious knowing, but they know they're present with it. They know that they're not fulfilling their potential and they could be doing better. They simply don't know how to get started. They don't know. They view it as this massive mountain to climb, and so they never take the first step and end up procrastinating and pushing it, brushing it under the carpet. But it's not from lack of awareness and understanding. They might not know how to go about it, but the majority of people out there who are not taking the best care of themselves are fully present with that. And essentially, you end up not feeling at home in your own body. You don't feel that your body represents you, your level of success in life. You don't feel like you are at home with yourself. You feel like you almost feel like your body has become your enemy, and you feel like you're in a constant state of battle against your own self. That's the most common indicator that things might be out of whack and out of balance.
So do you think you get like lethargic then?
Oh, lack of energy is probably after wanting to lose weight and feeling like they're carrying too much excess weight. experiencing a lack of energy and waking up already drained and tired is probably the second most common complaint that we hear. And then pain, just being in pain, and pain, various different, whether it's migraines or if it's chronic back tightness or joint pain and et cetera, et cetera. All of these are little flags that people kind of experience that are an obvious indicator that things are not how they should be.
So what should people do then? Is there a methodology that people could follow to sort themselves out?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've developed a proven 5 steps methodology, and we apply it across what we believe are the 3 fundamental pillars of health and well-being. I mean, there are a number of things that can be done. The one thing that I like to emphasize, because we know for a fact, and that's why we do what we do, is the thing that makes all the difference is to not be afraid to ask for help and reach out for support, because it is so hard to, like you said yourself, to really see what's really happening when you are in the situation. It's hard to get an outsider's perspective that can help, that will allow you to identify how you need to improve and make changes. But there are a number of things, a number of common mistakes that we see happen that can easily be prevented, and that can allow you to start making positive improvements.
Okay, that's good. So what are the 3 pillars then? Because you mentioned there's 3 pillars to health. What
3
are
pillars.
They?
Yeah, so the 3 pillars, as we've come to identify them, are focus, food, and fitness. So focus has everything to do with your mindset and mindfulness and with how you're training your mind and your mindset, which is really the area generally with most room for improvement for most people out there. It tends to be the one that is most underdeveloped, especially as it applies to health and wellness. We find that we sometimes we only really generally work with really successful individuals, and they have brilliant mindsets when it comes to many areas of their lives, but not when it comes to their health and well-being. So that's the first and most important area to improve. And then food is second most important, because you simply cannot outrun a bad diet. And even if you manage to look good whilst not eating well, eventually a bad diet will catch up with you in other forms. So it's really, really important to address that area. And then obviously there's fit. Yes, sorry.
I was going to say, I knew somebody who looked on the outside really fit,
right,
but they only ever ate crisps. Like literally, that was just a crisp, and it's like, I don't know what the insides look like. I mean, on the outside, they're very slim and very strong looking, but literally it was just crisp all the time. Crisp for breakfast, lunch and dinner, that was it.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And it's sad, and I always say this to our shifters. I say, a fast metabolism is the worst curse the universe could ever curse you with. Because what do you think would happen if you could get away with eating all the bad food in the world without ever putting on one bit of extra weight? Yeah, exactly. And that's what these people do, because they can get away with it. They do think they're getting away with it, but you're not getting away with it. Because if bad food is not showing up in your life as excess weight now, it will most definitely show up in your life as chronic disease later on in life. Yeah. And that's worse.
Yeah. Sorry, I stopped you. You did the 2. You did focus and food. And what's the third one?
Focus and food. And the third one is fitness, which again, it's a given, but it needs to be done smart. And, it's fitness from a holistic perspective. It's not just about going to the gym, pounding a whole bunch of extra weight. We really believe that the right kind of fitness is functional fitness. Is fitness that makes you fit, but most importantly, that makes you healthy and that improves your longevity and the quality of your life.
So this is about not just being able to, I don't know, run a few miles.
No.
You need to be strong. You need to be flexible. You need to be
yes,
supple,
absolutely.
that kind of stuff.
All of that, and you need to be pain free first and foremost, because you'd be surprised how many people do a lot of sport, and again they look very healthy and very strong, but actually they live in constant pain because they don't have a balanced approach to fitness. So they're actually burning their bodies to the ground. And some of the very common ways of going about fitness are actually not necessarily great health-wise. They're not particularly healthy. They're not suitable for everyone. So it's about finding a formula that improves the quality of your life as a whole. It's not just about looking ripped and having muscles. It's about being healthy from the inside and out.
You know what that makes me think about Mavericks? Because Mavericks aren't that interested in looking good if it meant that they're not actually what you would say fit in terms of the mind and the body, and
exactly functional.
They'd rather be carrying extra weight but more imbalanced than looking really fantastic but being unable to think, or they've got crap focus.
Yes, absolutely. No, so it needs to be functional. It needs to make you better as a whole.
Yeah. And I suppose if you're feeling better as a whole, then you will be able to concentrate on what your purpose is and get on with delivering the greater good if you're not so worried about walking up the stairs or,
Yes, and this is so important, and we see this so often. We see it so often. Our shifters come to us with health and wellness in mind, obviously, because they know they're not fulfilling their potential in that area, thinking that they're doing pretty well in all other areas of life. The moment they start transforming their health and well-being and taking that to the next level, then that has an immediate and profound effect on all areas of their lives. Their work gets better, their relationships get better, their social skills get better. Literally everything shifts to the next level because everything affects everything else.
Do you think that's driven mostly by the change in motivation from the person that's shifting, or do you think that's because the rest of the world is treating them differently because they look healthier or whatever? So that, because we know that usually people treat others poorly if they think they're overweight or whatever. So do you think maybe it's society treating them better that makes them better, or do you think it's the mindset, or both?
It's undeniable that we judge a book by its cover. As people, we do that, and so I'm not going to sit here and negate that. But I don't think that's the strongest point at all. I think the strongest point is about how you perceive your own self, and we often don't realize how much power we lose, or we are constantly losing and leaking from not being our very best selves and knowing unconsciously that we are not being our very, very best self. And so the moment we become our best self, it's almost like filling a little hole in a tire that is constantly leaking air, and all of a sudden, that tire just performs so much better because it doesn't have this constant hole that's leaking air. So we become so much more confident and empowered in our own selves, and we are in full integrity with who we are and who we look like we are, and it's just the most powerful thing when that happens.
That makes a lot of sense. You said that there were 3 pillars of wellness and there were 5 principles. What are those principles?
Well, the 5 principles, they would take quite a bit of time to delve deep into it. Essentially, the fundamental note and approach is that you have to really strengthen most importantly, the areas with most room for improvement, which is where most people tend to make a mistake, because human beings are wired, we are wired to be wanting to do the things that we already perceive as being somewhat okay at, and the things that we already have somewhat of an understanding and that are not completely new and obscure to us. And so, for instance, if we are eating okay, we're like, okay, well, let me fix my food even more. Or if we are going to the gym twice a week, we're like, oh, well, let me go 4 times. Maybe that will do. So we want to kind of up the game in the areas where we're already doing some of the work. When actually, very often, the real potential lies in the areas that we're not paying any attention to at all. They are completely undeveloped and where we therefore have the most room for improvement. But it's very hard to identify them on our own, because generally speaking, we very often are not even fully aware of how much potential there is there. But we have found that you would get greater results from starting to make improvements in the area where you are your weakest, for lack of a better word, than by doing even better in an area where you're already doing good. And that's what our methodology revolves around. It revolves around, first and foremost, identifying what are the areas with most room for improvement, and secondly, starting to make a gradual, sustainable, and incremental improvements in those areas, so that you can really experience profound transformation.
Thank you. That's interesting. Just before we leave, you mentioned that your biggest challenge is when you was 8, when your father was diagnosed as ill. What did you do to get over that challenge? How did you survive it?
Oh my gosh, it was quite the journey, I must say. I was only 8 years old when my dad was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So for very many years, I felt it was, well, firstly, I felt it was out of my control, and I was very burdened by it all. And I even went about life thinking that I was never going to be able to have a normal life, and I felt very overwhelmed by it. It was so big, such a big problem for a child to even wrap their head around. So I won't lie and say that it was easy peasy. There were very many years where it was a massive struggle. One of the greatest things that I've ever done, which I could only do when I was 20 years old, was actually to move away from home and create some distance between my childhood problems, my dad's problems, and my own life. And in order to be able to really kind of realize that his life and my life were not the same thing. And although I loved him and I wanted to help and support him, and I continue to, I also needed to build a sense of independence and focus on myself and taking care of myself and doing what I needed to do to take care of myself. And that's why now I am so passionate about instilling this idea in people's mind that if you don't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody in your life. And there's nothing selfish about putting yourself first. In fact, it's the most selfless thing you can ever do, because if you don't take care of you, sooner or later, somebody else will have to take care of you.
That makes sense. Okay, thank you for sharing with that.
Yes, of course.
Could you share one tip to listeners on how they can shift their life?
Yes, most definitely. You've got to move gradually. You got to avoid, because we tend to go into New Year resolution mode when we realize that we want to make improvements, and we want to change everything all at once and really go all in and transform our life, because we're impatient. We don't appreciate that it is a journey that's going to take quite some time. So if there is one thing that I want to share that makes all the difference, is move gradually, be patient, and look for longer term solutions rather than short, quick term fixes. because that's the only way that you're going to retain the results.
Thank you. That's well worth remembering. As I say, mavericks tend to run around at 100 miles an hour.
Yes, very impatient.
Exactly. Yeah, to go slow. It's like, no. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure.
Would you come again, Serena?
Yes, of course. Of course. My pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my conversation with Serena as much as I enjoyed having it. At the Maverick Paradox, we improve your impact and influence by enabling you to effectively strategize, innovate, and execute. To find out more, contact us at judith@maverickparadox.com. Thank you. If you are pathologically curious and would love to find out more about the Maverick Paradox, then please subscribe to this podcast on one of the popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, you could explore our resources on Mavericks at maverickparadox.com or read the Maverick Paradox magazine. We publish frequently each week. If you subscribe, you will get our monthly newsletter. And let's not forget my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. For those that love a good discussion, you could apply to join our exclusive Facebook group. Finally, if you would like to work with us or are interested in the Maverick at work, check out maverickparadox.co.uk.